Hey everyone, this is a live memory training session. I'm working on name and face recall using Anki and Memory League. And this is a real study session, so feel free to just study along, hang out quietly, or ask questions if you want. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started. I think I'm going to start by doing some practice with Memory League. I'd like to get to the next level tonight on Memory League, but I'm going to start and see if I can get kind of a baseline, and we'll go from there. Oh, I don't want to complete training. In some of the screenshots that I've shown before, it looked like I was on level 6, which can be a little bit misleading. It's because about 4 or 5, maybe 6 years ago, I tried to do memory training, but I didn't stick with it long enough to get very good, and then I forgot everything. And so I did make it to level 6 on Memory League's naming training, but I want to see if I can get to the highest level, which is level 10. And so I'm going to go ahead and start and see if I can see how many I get to start with. I'm having a little bit of trouble today because I am trying a new strategy where I'm focusing on the forehead to try and place the image exclusively, to try and speed things up so I don't have to look for a unique quality about the person, but then it's making it difficult to associate the image with the body part. It's just kind of like a tattoo on someone's head that's just a picture. So to bring it to life, I think I need to find a different anchor point. So on the next one, on the next round, I'm going to see if I can memorize the name by placing an image on a person's nose, particularly towards the bottom of the nose. It seems to be a little bit unique for each person and kind of give me something that um, something I can build off of. I can intertwine the image with. So here we go. Looking at this guy's face, the bottom of the nose, I remember because it's very flat. Okay. Sometimes when I get stuck on a name, the image isn't coming to me, I will go through the alphabet and see if I get to a letter that just triggers the rest of the memory for the name. In this case, it didn't work very well. Ugh. Okay. Joseph. Okay. So, for those of you that don't know, Memory League gives you 1 minute to memorize as many names as you can, and the level goes up to reflect uh, like how many you can remember successfully. So where I'm at, I'm given 16 names, not because I can memorize 16 names, but because in a minute, but because it's just like I've met a threshold to be able to be given this many. Okay, so 7 is going to be the baseline that we're going to start at, and I'm gonna sync up the Anki deck that I've been practicing today, so that I can practice on my computer. Alright, so I've got a names deck. I'm gonna see if I can get through tonight. Oh, but I'm gonna check this text message and get distracted. You know what? As I'm going through my flashcards, it's reminding me that um, maybe an error that I've made in Memory League tonight is that I'm not getting enough action out of the images that I've made. So, one of the names, for example, that I practiced earlier was Wanda, and Wanda is for my image is Wanda from the Fairly Odd Parents, and I visualized her, but I didn't really visualize her doing anything, like saying "Oh, sweetie" to Cosmo or something that's more action oriented. And one of the things that I've tried to do in the flashcards, as I've understood better how movement can improve a recall, is not only pre-create the image, but also the action that it will take, so that I've got it all queued up. As soon as I see a name, I can associate it quickly. So, anyways, I think I'm gonna keep going through a bunch of flashcards, and then we'll switch back. A flaming emu running loose makes me think of Emilio. It tells me it is Emilio. I think I'm going to have to study that again. I think one of the traps that I fell into when I was creating cards is sometimes I would be looking at the letters of the name instead of thinking about how they would be pronounced. So I've had to recreate images for some of my names, particularly those that would be more Spanish speaking types of names. So Gabriela is sounds different than Gabriel or Gabriella. the Gabriella, Ga versus gay. I might change the image, for example. This is a good example. Andres, Andre, Andre, but it's a hand dressing itself. So kind of the A and D, but on there may be some better associations. I think this one can stick. Andre, Andres, Andre. Anyways, sometimes if I get stuck on a image that seems like it should associate well, and I can't really think of anything better to come up with, then I'll go ahead and add an image to it instead of just describing the image. So that it's easier for my brain to associate with. One of the things I'm trying right now with names that are similar between kind of like a male and female version, so Adrian and Adriana, um, trying to come up with a image for that last sound so that most of the things can be the same, but the gets gets bubbles on it. So it will help kind of save a cognitive load when we have such a similar name, but also give me the difference relatively quickly with a clear image that when I see bubbles, the represents that Maybe this one. That's one that I am changing a little bit. So Rosa, the image was a rose, but then I thought the name was Rose. So I think that adding my little bubbles bubbles for that sound at the end, a rose with, might the thorns might cut your hand, and then maybe bubbles come out. But that might help differentiate when I see rose, which is going to be a rose and Rosa. This one came up in a recent YouTube video. Saws being juggled by a lawyer in Sawyer. Taking the time to edit some pictures and create a YouTube video about it, or a YouTube short. But spending a little bit of extra time on some of those images can help solidify them and make them a little bit more integrated, because you've spent a little bit more time with them. It's one thing to say that you've come up with an image, but it's another thing to make sure that that association sticks. I think that there may be a large emphasis on the mnemonic strategies, like associating images, but maybe the emphasis is on trying to convince folks that it's real so that they will try it. But one of the things that I hope to do by improving my own recall and going through all of the steps that everybody would need to go through is kind of come up with actual structured practice, because I have a decent plan for how I should practice. I have a plan for how I can practice and improve. How decent it is, I guess, depends on the outcome. But I do have the benefit of having access to my phone and understanding Anki and being able to listen to audiobooks on mnemonics and watch YouTube videos and kind of pull in lots of different sources. And some people, they are really about the one-stop shop. And so I do think a structured memory, like training course that took the time to explain the concept, but then didn't stop there, like gave you some very structured practice and had it prepared for you, so you just had to be there and participate, I think would be uh, ideal. I'm not sure why I don't see that very much or at all, But I kind of wonder if it's because just telling people that they can, you know, memorize everything, in 7 days is more punchy in marketing than outlining like the amount of practice it would take. There's no doubt, though, that understanding the concepts can take you pretty far, but if you really wanted to gain the benefits, you're going to have to practice and build those neural connections in your brain. Anyways, I'm getting distracted. Jeez. Got about 23 flashcards left before I've gone through at least 100. I say at least because some of them I've um, put into review again for the day. So I think I'm going to get down to where the ones I haven't reviewed at all today is around 100, because that'll put me about halfway from where I started. And then I'm going to switch back over to do the Memory League. Hmm. Hmm. Felipe. Hmm. A giant pill. Is it Jill? Yes. April. A pill. Okay. Well, I am going to switch back over to wherever my web browser is. I'm going to see if I can do a better job with names. So, I got 7 earlier. I'm going to try and put more action into my images. We're just going to try and incrementally go a little bit faster, see if we can do it. It's not going to be a linear progression because one of the things that happens is sometimes you get a batch of names that you just haven't practiced very much. And sometimes you get a batch of names and you've practiced all of them. So the more that you practice, the faster you can go. If this was real life and you were just remembering people's names, you wouldn't be in such a quick succession and you'd be able to kind of, you know, have more time between people to come up with a good image. But whenever you are practicing for speed, like a memory competition, um, a second is a long time because you only get a minute in this particular competition to memorize as many names as you can. So, all right, we're going to see if we can increase the score. And I have to get 11 to go on to level 7, but based on where I'm starting tonight, my kind of baseline, I don't think I'm going to get 11 tonight. There's one guy that I'm pretty sure I memorized his name. I tried to memorize his name. That's right. Not sure why it's not coming to me. Make sure I'm not mixing his name up with somebody else. Oh, I was. It was a Raymond that I got mixed up. And then Robbie, Raymond and Robbie, because I don't have a pre-made image for Robbie, but I do for Raymond. Okay, 7 again. Pretty close though, if I didn't get those guys mixed up. Let's try it again. Probably could get another one in. It's fine. Okay. I think I'm gonna misspell Margaret, but let's try it anyways. Yes. Okay. So 9 so far is my best score, and that's pretty good. I think I'm not gonna stop right now, but I am gonna look and see. I've been trying to track kind of my best scores. I need to do a bunch of stuff. So the best I've scored. So I'm on day 21, Monday 21 of my training. Most I've done so far is 9 names in a minute. It's not too bad. Yeah, I'm gonna talk about whenever I get to 30 days. I'm gonna try and do a summary video of what I've worked on and what I've actually accomplished. I don't want to act like all of this has been for nothing. I mean, remembering 9 names in a minute is pretty good, but what is hard to show is that the consistency at which I get 7-ish names has increased a lot, because early on it might vary depending on whether or not I have seen some of those names before or not. But since I've studied a bunch of flashcards, I've come up with the most, 500 of the most common names that I could think of. I come across those more often in the batches that I'm practicing, and then I end up being able to memorize them faster. So more consistently, I'm able to get around 7 names. And so that is beneficial in the real world. In the real world, if I can memorize common names pretty quickly, then that is worth sharing with other folks, I think. But for competition purposes, I have seen improvement. If you're looking at qualitatively how I've been able to do what I do want to do, is try to get those, try and get to the next level, which means I've got to get at least 11 in a minute. And I think that the real trick to that is going to be in 2 steps, really nailing down the flashcards that I've got now, and then continuously adding a certain amount, maybe 10 or so a day to that list, and growing this internal database so that I can quickly associate names as they come up. And then one of the things that I've noticed is challenging for me occasionally is names that sound the same but are spelled a little bit differently, which will make you miss points um, on memory leak. So like Margaret, sometimes it's Margaret, and sometimes it's Margarrette. And having a way to identify that. Another good one is Debbie, Debbie, Debby, Deby. It just depends. I was in a meeting at work the other day, and I was with a bunch of really high leadership people. So it was already stressful enough. And then every single one of their names was spelled in a less common way. So I constantly spelled every single name wrong. And I wasn't getting a lot of help from Microsoft Teams because it would kind of be delayed like 10 seconds before it would show me who was talking. So um, if you can't see the spelling in real life, then it's hard to memorize. And usually for just networking purposes, just kind of getting how the name sounds is enough, because if you really needed to email them or something, you guys would discuss contact information, or you would spell it close enough to be able to look them up on LinkedIn or whatever. But again, for competition purposes, got to make sure that spelling's down. So I think sometimes I just like to talk about it out loud because I'm trying to give myself a break between sessions, so I probably need to get back into it. I'm just stalling for time. Based on the fact that we're at 57 minutes and it's past 10, and I was planning on trying to catch up on some work stuff tonight, I probably need to make this my last round today. Hmm. Peggy always gets me. Okay. Let's see. Anybody else that I was able to get to? This person looks familiar. Like I saw that name. One of the things that comes up when you're using the same website to practice is that sometimes you'll see the same image of a face, with different names, and so you start to kind of cross-contaminate your practice. I still think the website is fantastic. It's pretty impressive and great for what we're trying to do. But I think that there may be a point in which you want to stop just repeating your drill over and over again, kind of let your brain reset by doing something else. But I gotta get this person's name. Maybe I didn't see that person. I did see that person. I lied. I'm going to do one more. I got 7. Hmm. Well, okay, we'll submit it. I got 11. 11 names in 1 minute, and now I've reached level 7. That's pretty sick. I did not think that was going to happen tonight, but I am extremely happy about that. So I'm going to stop studying Memory League tonight. That was my last rep, and I'm going to hop back in here to do Anki. We're going to wrap up tonight by finishing these flashcards. It is getting a little bit long tonight, but I want to try and finish these flashcards. It's pretty motivating to have finally achieved something that I've been working for a long time. So here we go. I do want to point out really quick, the most effective way that I have been taught and have practiced to memorize a name is to take the name and turn it into a meaningful or memorable image. So it could be meaningful, but it also could just be something that sounds like the name and is really silly or is gross or something that's going to stick in your brain. And then to put it on a feature of the person's face that stands out to you. So, as a dramatic example, maybe you meet somebody who just has a large nose. You're not judging them for having a large nose, but that's a feature that will help you to place that image on so that when you see them, it's just really obvious, what you would put that feature, that image on, and you'd be able to immediately cue it up. Um, it's not always even, you just like, I don't even know what's unique about this person's face. But to go fast, I don't think that in memory competition you have time to like look all over the face to find the feature and then plug in the image. I think that, and I don't have evidence for this other than what I've researched, it could be untrue, but I think that they found a way to place an image kind of in the same spot more or less so that they don't have to think about where they're putting the image when they're just going fast. And it would save time. It would stand to reason that that's what they would do. I'm finding more success with finding a feature that stands out. So maybe this is something that I just need to stick with for a little bit longer, that maybe the constraint on my speed is not, the constraint on my speed isn't taking the time to place the image. It is the ability to come up with the image to begin with. So while I'm building that speed, the ability to quickly pull up those images, then maybe I don't need to worry about where I'm placing the image or trying to pick a spot, but rather try to pick the same spot for everyone, but just go ahead and proceed with what I would do in the real world, which is try and find a distinct feature on a person's face to place that image on. If it works, it works. And then maybe if I get to the point where the constraint is how long it takes to find a feature, I can worry about maybe a standardized location at that time. And maybe at that point, I will have such a strong neural network around the images that I won't really need to, it won't really matter where I put the image. It'll just kind of be there more obviously for me because I've had so much practice with it. That's a theory that I have anyways. But yes, I think I would be curious to know if somebody that's a champion that has had a lot of success. I don't really know very many international champions, but Nelson Dellis and Ron White are people that I have looked into, have a lot of interest in. Both of them, I believe, are really genuine guys to begin with, very likable. But I would be curious to know the amount of names that they have preloaded images for in their head. I believe Nelson Dellis had, I think it was over 200 names. It was like 220 names in 5 minutes You'd have to check me, but he broke the record at the USA Memory Championship for memorizing names. And to be able to memorize 200 over 200, whatever it was, names that are random, he's probably got thousands of pre-made images in his head. And I made 500 and thought I would crack the code. I do think that, again, for non-competitive purposes, that is a pretty good deal. It does have a lot of benefit, especially if you're practicing with you've memorized common names. Because, like, how many Johns do you meet, when you're going networking and stuff? A bunch. So having that pre-made image for John is useful. But when you're talking about, seconds, milliseconds of speed mattering in the final score of a competition, I think that he's probably got thousands of names, and he's probably practiced them so much that it's almost instant. And that doesn't come overnight. He's probably spent a lot of time practicing for that. So my goal this year in terms of memory training is not to be the USA Memory Champion, even though that sounds awesome. And maybe in the future that will occur. A lot of the people that end up going to the finals and winning are exceptionally impressive. So impressive, it's hard to appreciate until you really start to study mnemonics. It just goes to show that mnemonics do work, and also the more work you put into it, the better that you get. But my goal this year is to be able to get to the championship itself. So just to get through the preliminaries. So I have some benchmarks that I've set for myself to based on previous scores, previous people that have gotten into the finals, which could not matter this year. We could just have a bunch of just great competitors that go to the preliminary round, and like it doesn't matter what my benchmarks are. There's no guarantee whatever from year to year, but it's a goal I'm shooting for. I should take that back. That's a dream I'm shooting for. The goal would be the things that are within my control, which is meeting those benchmarks. Because if you set a goal to win, I think that's a good goal, but I think you have to have an objective measure to compare yourself to. Otherwise, you're only comparing yourself to the competition, which you don't have control over. So I think it's worth winning, but you got to make sure that you're working towards winning. You got to have some sort of objective measure. It's kind of like if you're playing basketball and you say, yeah, I want to win. I want to be the best basketball player, but you aren't really tracking your strong areas and your weak areas. So maybe you are shooting like 40% from the free throw line, and you're not working on that to get better, but you're still trying to be a better basketball player. You're not really giving yourself a good shot at it if you aren't working on the things that you need to improve on. So anyways, when I make videos that aren't a live stream, I'll try and have better examples that are more to the point. Okay, I need to get back to work. All right. Other aspirating. This is from a video today. Montgomery, Mountain of Gum. That's a better image. The planet Mars drinking Coke for Marco. It's a pretty funny image. And I had a Marcos earlier in Memory League, and I wish I would have had it fresh on my mind, that Marco drinking a Coke. Maybe I need an image, like a standard image for when there's a name that someone has added an S to. Like, but it'd have to be really visual. Like Stinks isn't super visual. I mean, I get the vibe, but if I've got a lot of other names, I really need something that starts with an S and is really visual. And I'm sure there's a million different options. But maybe I'll think about that later. Table flipping over. Tabitha. Okay, that's right. Check this message real quick. I might need to work on my attention span. To be fair, I was at work all day, and I think that my focus may have been spent. But okay. Mm, that's right. Felipe. Noemi. Noemi. Okay. A letter being. Oh, that's right. At first, I tried to do Marco, as in someone, visualize someone yelling into like a place that echoes Marco Polo, but for some reason that wouldn't stick until right now when after I changed the image. But Mars drinking Coke did come to me, so I'm gonna stick with it. violin playing a song. Violin. That was another one I made a video about Alberto, an owl burping up a toe. A massive ignition. Ignacio. Tego. That's a visual that I really like the way that it lines up. A tree being cut with a saw. Teresa. I think that lines up pretty well. Jasmine. Another thing that I've done at the end of words at the end with ia, like ia, ia, it kind of makes me think of yawning. So as soon as I can think about it, I'll put that for that ending. I'll have the character or the object yawning in order to help me differentiate. If there's a similar name that doesn't end in ia, then it can help differentiate. Okay, so I have made it through the first pass to review all 200 of the Anki cards that I was starting with today. I've got 21 that are in re-review right now, and since we are over an hour and a half into the stream, but since I've just got 21 left, I think I'm going to try and get through all of those, give a little bit of a summary, and then wrap up for the evening and see if I want to get back to doing work. Anyways, okay. Okay. All right. So overall, I would say pretty productive session. We were able to go through a couple rounds on Memory League. We were able to go through 200 cards and to review for Name Recall. Big success tonight. I made it to level 7 in Memory League name recall. So that's pretty awesome. Very excited to be able to see progress and not just, I don't know, not just practice a lot and see it in my everyday life kind of, at work, I remember people's names better. There's not a lot of, not a, there's not a lot of like that excitement. Because sometimes I'm remembering names in stressful situations. It's not always fun. It is funny sometimes when I have a good image. But whenever you are working towards a goal, like trying to remember names quickly for competition and you make it one step further, that's pretty fun. So, yeah, I think pretty productive session. I might try live streaming later. I think that it keeps me at the computer screen and helps me to keep from getting too distracted. You guys saw that I like to look at my phone intermittently, but when I feel like there might be people that are paying attention, it kind of keeps me focused a little bit better. So, or maybe I had enough energy drinks that the caffeine is keeping me going today. But we'll go ahead and stop there.